All right, it is time for this review. What are we reviewing today?
Baahubali Part 2.
The conclusion. Now, Baahubali did not officially start the craziness with our YouTube channel really increasing. It was really the Say How trailer. But Baahubali 1 was the first movie I saw in this whole new world, so to speak. And so Baahubali 2 is Chris's officially first movie he saw.
My first introduction to Indian cinema.
And this is officially my third, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. I watched the first one, obviously. We just finished watching the second one, and we are so excited to get a review to you on this. Here we go.
Boy Reviews! If he dies, he dies.
Now, he did not see the first one. I told him about it, but let me just tell you how this compares real quick to the first one. I really, really enjoyed the first one, but if there was a complaint I had with that one, it was hard for me to follow because of the subtitles and the back and forth with the time periods. This movie, not only is it a stronger film, not only were my eyes glued to it the entire time, but there was no confusion whatsoever because it told that more complete story with Bahubali's father, and then the second part of the story of Mahendra Bahubali, the son. And so, honestly, this is the first Indian film I've watched where my eyes were glued the entire time. The other films were really, really good. Really good. But there were some parts that I kind of got lost in or whatever, or I got a little drowsy maybe. Not this movie. This movie, I was hooked the entire time. I absolutely loved it.
I mean, I'm over here agreeing and nodding my head, smiling. Really, I'm just waiting for my turn to talk because this movie was awesome. This is my introduction to Indian cinema, as I've said before, and I'm afraid I may have spoiled myself because apparently this is a really big deal, this movie. I have a feeling it's as if I watched American cinema for the first time and I just saw Lord of the Rings.
Ooh.
You know, it was intense. It was action-packed. It was epic. I mean, epic pretty much, it's such an underwhelming word for this movie. It was a lot of fun, though. I loved everything about it. You know, compared to what I'm used to in American cinema, there were some things where it could have been that was over the top or whatever, but I love how it is all intentional with Indian cinema. All those moments, those superhero poses, those are all intent to be there. And you know that's the case because the writing itself is very good. Everything in that movie is deliberately done. The cinematography is awesome. So of course, what other people may designate as ridiculous, it's absolutely supposed to be there. And it makes the movie fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, and you know, we've done quite a few reactions on this channel for Indian cinema, and this is going to be our third review. And most of them so far have been extremely positive as far as my response. And I don't want anyone thinking I'm pandering to the audience. Mm-mm. But honestly, we just finished watching the movie, so I'm on that high right now. Mm-hmm. I would honestly put this right now as my top 100 favorite films of all time. I really would. Comfortably.
I was thinking the same thing after I got done watching. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's fine. We're just excited. And that might sound like a huge insult, but you have no idea how many movies I've seen and I love.
That's
and
a lot.
To just finish watching that for the first time and say it's in my top 100, maybe my top 50, I mean, that's really a huge compliment. This movie was fantastic. Let's talk about some of our favorite parts. I'll go ahead and begin since I'm talking. One of my favorite parts of this movie is when Katapa is finishing telling that story, that tragic story about what happened to Bahubali Sr. And right away, Mahendra Bahubali, he just turns around, he has that red in his eye. There's that phrase, he saw red or she saw red or I'm seeing red. I mean, you saw it right there in his bloodshot eyes. He wanted revenge. And from the first Bahubali, this Mahendra Bahubali, he was a peace-loving guy. I mean, he could fight, but he was always smiling. He was not smiling. He was not messing around. That moment when you knew, okay, it's on and something bad's going to happen to his uncle, that was awesome.
I'm not going to go straight away into one of my favorite moments, one of my favorite characters, as you mentioned, Katapa. Katapa probably is my favorite character in this whole film. I loved Bahubali, don't get me wrong, and Mahendra Bahubali, but I loved the character progression and the fall that Katappa had to go through, and then his rise up, because everything he did was with pure emotion. He wanted to follow his queen, but he also had to do what he needed to do, and you saw his love for Bahubali. Really, I'm not sure if that's too much of a spoiler.
No, I mean, this movie's been out for a few years.
Okay.
And the people watching this review, they love themselves some Bahubali, so they've already seen it.
Fantastic. So, I mean, it's new to me, right? So, 2 years late to the game, right? 2017.
It's better than 20 years.
But either way, I loved Katappa's character. By far my favorite. I will say this, okay, one of my favorite moments was how they were fighting, sharing the hatchet or the sword, throwing back and forth. The camera would follow the sword so you can see the travel, but I'm just seeing in my mind a fluid throw back and forth in reality. You know, where it's not taking a while to get there. He throws it, it's over here, he kills this guy. He throws it over here, he kills that guy. It was awesome. That was really cool.
I also love the love between Devasena, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, and Bahubali Sr. I mean, Bahubali Sr. says at one point that God, Shiva, they can make a mistake, but God or Queen Mother, you cannot. And then when she wanted to...
Was that Devasena or Sig... Oh, I think Devasena was his mother.
No, Devasena was the wife.
Oh,
his mother was Queen Mother Shigagami or something. Shibagami. But his love for Devasena was so strong that as soon as he thought that her life was in peril or anything close to it, he stood in front with that sword. Those guards came up. They stopped for a second once they saw his Bahubali, and he said, And then automatically, when he heard that this guy was trying to grope his wife, automatically, whoosh, I mean, that was just awesome on so many different levels, but just the passion. And that's the biggest thing with this movie is you can feel the actor's passion, the character's passion, the director's passion. I mean, it's all good.
I mean, passion goes a long way into it. The music was awesome. I loved the boat scene. Now, when they started flying, at first I'm like, is this what the boat can do the whole time? Why wouldn't you fly the entire time? And then I think I realized, or in my mind, I think what they were going for was it was a metaphor for how they were feeling. Together, they were flying through the air. They were in love, and I loved everything about that cinematography, the scenes, the dancing, just all going back to the music and how much the music adds to the movie. And you really don't see that. We have scores in American film, but you don't really see music being integrated like that in our films, which is a shame.
You know, there's other favorite scenes, and there was one I can't think of right now that when I saw it, I was like, oh, I'm going to be talking about that. But let's talk a little bit about an element of every movie that I typically have a problem with that I do not with this movie, and that's the villain. The villain, his uncle, he, you know, what is that phrase about webbing or whatever?
Weaving a web?
Yeah. The web that he weaves to get Bahubali to go down in flames and ultimately get killed. I mean, it's a brilliant plan. It's not some easy, convenient thing like, oh, really, that's all they did? I mean, he started from moment one, Katappa. He started with getting Queen Mother against him. He started with he was very, very intelligent. The writing was spectacular there, and he handled himself perfectly. He's holding his father back the entire time during the trial, and then he knows, okay, now start telling those lies and start getting into the Queen Mother's ears. And the villain was awesome. That last battle scene was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they got the chains on the hands, and they got all these things going on, and he's wielding the huge scepter thing. Villain, top notch.
He was a good villain. He was Bahubali's stepbrother, right?
The original one.
Yeah. So no,
brother, cousin, something like that. Yeah.
The usurper, we'll call him, the fake king. But no, he was an excellent villain, and I love how when Bahubali's son, Mahendra, I believe, came back, he didn't just he was scared, which was cool, but he also had a lot of fight in him. So it was it was cool to see kind of an equal match go back and forth, and then eventually be overpowered. I love shows that, you know, you showcase the good guy for a little bit, then you really showcase the bad guy, and then the good guy triumphs.
Well, you know, if Gabe was here, he'd probably be sympathizing for the villain because he loves the villain. But if you think about the villain for a second, when Bahubali Jr. comes and you're right, first he takes a step back, but then he takes a step forward and he realizes, I need to redeem myself because I did not kill his father. I sent Katapa, and this is my kingdom, and I'm not going to let it go that easily. So I'm going to prove myself, and I'm going to imagine that his son is actually Bahubali himself so I can get my redemption. And that was all good. It just didn't work out for him too much at the end. I even love at the very end, the golden head is going down the waterfall right to the village where all this began in Bahubali 1. So much artistic flair. I had a review on Ad Astra. You should check that out. Very artistic movie that I was not a big fan of. This movie had the artistic element, but also everything else, which just enhanced it to the utmost degree. Even the music in this was placed perfectly, like you mentioned. I mean, the acting was fantastic. I really, really loved this movie.
This movie was not afraid to show what it wanted to do. It didn't. I feel what I'm trying to say is this movie didn't feel like it owed anything to anybody. It didn't have to show. I would agree with Ad Astra. Way too much artistry. We saw it together, but this movie, everything flowed together. You didn't get the sense that the directors or the writers were trying to make a certain statement. You were just like, I'm here to watch a great movie, and I'm here to be entertained, and I did that.
And, they knew, like you said, they knew exactly what they were doing, and they were very confident about it. Hats off to the director of this film. Hats off to the cinematographers, to the writers. I mean, the actors. Everything was fantastic. And it's so cool also how, and you have to check out the first one, there's a lot of elements from the first one that they use in the second one perfectly. They don't retcon anything. They just keep going forward, and it's all cohesive. There's so many great scenes, but let's talk about a grade for this movie. Why don't you go ahead and give your grade first?
Grade for this movie? This movie deserves an A, in my opinion. This movie deserves
solid
an
A?
Solid A. A solid A.
All right. Well, I am just not to try to one-up you. That was not the point or the plan. But I got to go to an A+. 100%. This is one of those top movies in my mind. I loved it from start to finish. I really enjoyed Baahubali 1. This one, all the comments that we got said you're going to love the second one even more. They were absolutely correct. You should be very proud of yourselves for that movie. I believe that's a Hollywood movie. Indian cinema, great job. Can't wait to watch other ones. We have other reviews coming your way as soon as we check them out and we get them taken care of. More reactions coming your way. And if you like what you see, go ahead and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. And until next time.
Take care.
Boy Reviews!